Nick Bosa calls game as the San Francisco 49ers sneak out of Seattle with a victory in week 1. How did it happen? Analysis of a wild thriller of a game to start the 2025 season, game balls and all, coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker, our first live post-game episode here. And stay tuned following, because right here on the Locked On 49ers channel, we're going to have another squad episode as well, continuing the conversation about this football game. So you're going to want to stay tuned and make sure you're all subscribed up here on YouTube and everywhere you listen to this podcast. And today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Never a doubt, Croc. San Francisco 49ers victorious in week 1, 17-13, the final over the Seattle Seahawks. And it was the 49ers' best player, Nick Bosa, in the end, that had the strip sack fumble recovery to seal it as the Seahawks were marching down the football field to try to put together a game-winning drive. That drive ended by Nick Bosa and the San Francisco 49ers. Really, I feel like they sneak out of Seattle and stole a victory. I'm still not sure how they won that football game, Croc.
I don't know. Sometimes it's a little bit better to be, I guess, kind of lucky than skilled. I mean, you want those two to kind of go together, and maybe they did in this instance, but the Niners snuck away. And I would much, much, much rather talk about sneaking away with a victory and having some things kind of go your way, as opposed to the opposite conversation, which would have been losing on the road in Seattle. This was a tough game, and it was always going to be tough. And in these kind of games, you just want to figure out ways to come out with the victory. And, Peacock, not trying to throw you on the bus, but, you were someone who kind of picked the 49ers to lose this game, right? Like, being unbiased, 49ers on the road. We know that the 49ers have a lot of guys maybe not as healthy. And then only to find out to start the game, now you got to go without George Kittle. You got to go without Juwan Jennings, right? Those guys got banged up during the game. And now, hey, Purdy, it's you, it's Christian McCaffrey, it's Pearsall, it's guys on defense. Everyone had to kind of come together to figure out a way to get out of this game with a win, and the 49ers did just that.
It really was a perfect start for the 49ers. You talk about the George Kittle hamstring injury and wasn't able to come back in the game, which is never a good thing when you got your baseball cap on and that's it. So hopefully that's not something that keeps George Kittle out for a long time. We'll have more reports, no doubt, as the week goes on about George Kittle and his hamstring. But he's a man of the people, too. And he gave the 49ers that 7-0 lead in this game, gave his fantasy owners 12 points before he left the game. So he had a lasting impact on this game, and the 49ers couldn't put it in the end zone again until late in the fourth quarter. And then they were able to come back and put some more points on the scoreboard and win that football game. So still a huge impact, even though George Kittle didn't even last the entire first quarter of the football game. But really an ideal start for the 49ers to get the news that Christian McCaffrey was going to play. So he was active in this game, even though the 49ers weren't really great at running the football. He was still out there and had a big impact and was a huge part of the offense, as you would expect. And Brock Purdy looking very, very sharp on the opening drive. Going down the football field, you get helped out by the Leonard Williams penalty, and the 49ers go down the field and then score. And then right after that, the Seahawks come back, Croc, and they go down the field and score. And it's like, oh man, okay, this is going to be some kind of an offensive, shootout. Yeah, some kind of a shootout and fireworks all over the place. And then it got ugly and dirty and muddy, and both defenses stiffened up. And I'm still not sure, Croc, was this a defensive struggle of a football game, or were the offenses just a little out of sync on both sides of the ball?
Obviously, I think the easy answer is a combination of both. But I think it truly was. Seattle Seahawks did some really good things on the defensive side of the ball, especially against the run. They held the 49ers to 3.3 yards per carry. And that's for a team that ran the ball 36 times. All right. So 3.6 or 3.3, whatever I just said it was, 3.3 yards per carry. That's a terrific job by the defense. So, I don't think it was just all, this unit is bad or this unit is good. 49ers are a team that want to run the ball, and they want to run the ball extremely well. And one of the things that Kyle Shanahan does is, people talk about his exotic run game schemes and how he, does certain things and how he's innovative in that department. And the Seahawks had answers for it, not just early on, but really consistently throughout the game. Christian McCaffrey, his longest rush, 13 yards. Brian Robinson, longest rush, 9 yards. They were pretty much bottled up for most of this game running the ball. So then they had to, you had to go to the 49ers being able to throw the ball. And, hey, there's no George Kittle. Oh, there's no Juwan Jennings. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk, you're missing a lot of your key weapons. Some of the not the blame, but the productivity had to come to Christian McCaffrey. He had over 70 yards receiving on the ground. Ricky Pearsall, second year, finally healthy. He had a healthier offseason, over 100 yards through the air. So I think those things you would have liked to see come together, and I think they did for the most part. Still some scary things that happened in that game, though.
Definitely some scary things. First of all, most of the
Mark Davis in the chat talks about D. Winters being a stud, and I thought D. Winters was lights out in this game. He was flying around. He was good coverage. I mean, there weren't the leak yardage as Robert Saleh famously came up with some years ago. He talked about leak yardage and, when you hit a guy and then being able to get a yard or two after that or being able to break a tackle. He was hitting guys, and they were going down right on contact, whether it was in the run or the pass. D. Winters, he was a stud.
Should we start there and start giving out some game balls? Because we can kind of meld some game balls into this conversation. He's the first name I wrote down as a game ball player here is D. Winters. He had 6 total tackles. It felt like more. He was all over the place, 2 tackles for loss. And you felt really good about D. Winters after this football game, playing next to Fred Warner, flying around. And it really did remind you of the old days of Fred Warner and a healthy Dre Greenlaw back there for the 49ers. And they were huge and did a good job bottling up the Seattle Seahawks run game, because the Seahawks were able to run the ball quite a bit early. And then as the game went on, it really felt very similar. And in fact, both rushing totals are almost identical, with 3.3 yards per carry for the 49ers and 3.2 yards per carry for the Seattle Seahawks on the game.
Yeah, so clearly the team said, we're going to stop the run, and quarterbacks, you guys are going to have to make some throws. And late in the game, both quarterbacks made some throws.
Really quick on Christian McCaffrey. Did we put the over under on touches that Christian McCaffrey was going to get in this game if he played? Because he still went over, and we kind of joke and say, well, he's still going to touch the ball 27 times, which is a kind of a high number, right? 31 touches, 22 carries, and 9 catches for Christian McCaffrey in this game, with all the talk about his calf and his injury coming into the game. And again, 3.1 yards per carry, only had 69 rushing yards on 22 carries. So the 49ers weren't doing a very good job at all. In fact, they were getting beat pretty handily, I think, up front for most of this game. 13 yards you mentioned was the long rush for him. Robinson was 9 for 33, somewhat similar. He was 3.7 yards per carry there with a 9-yard long. But 31 touches for Christian McCaffrey in this game, 73 receiving yards, had the 25-yard reception as well. So in the end, as this huge stat line, but not a highly efficient stat line for the 49ers offense.
No, and with Christian McCaffrey touching the ball really 22 times on the ground, 9 receptions through the air, I would say, Brian Robinson having 10 total touches, 9 rushes, that was something good to see, because, I mean, you go back to last season and Christian McCaffrey's in the game and he's playing, those backup running backs were lucky to get a carry or 2. So to see a guy get 10 touches, that was optimistic that, Kyle Shanahan is at the very least making an effort to slow down the wear and tear on Christian McCaffrey.
And not only that, but Brian Robinson was on the field during the first series of the game. So that was, in fact, because that was that long 95-yard drive. And when the 49ers were backed up against their end zone, McCaffrey went on like a little swing route and then kind of like was going to chip a rusher and got completely blasted. And then Brian Robinson was on the field. And I was like, did McCaffrey already get hurt? Because it's rare that he's not going to be on the field for the entire first drive, at least. But he came trotting back on the field. Then it looks like all reports are, I haven't heard anything post-game yet. So hopefully, Chris McCaffrey came through this game unscathed, which is a huge sign for the 49ers because clearly he's a massive part of the 49ers offense. 31 touches for Christian McCaffrey when we didn't even know if he was going to play just a few hours before kickoff. So more on the San Francisco 49ers. I know a lot of the folks out there want to talk about Moody in the chat, want to talk about the 49ers offensive line up front. I do want to talk about the 49ers offensive line and the defensive line, the new look defensive line rotation, which I think we learned a lot about that in this game. And to be honest with you, I think the 49ers might still be learning about themselves as far as how that defensive line rotation is going to go. And more game balls from the 49ers week 1 victory over the Seattle Seahawks next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back now officially, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. All you do is you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. In fact, Lamar Jackson, there's a max discount for Lamar this week. Just has to go for more than 0.5 passing yards. And look ahead to more of those max discounts, by the way, on Prize Picks. And we'll let you know when those come down every single week. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. This episode is also brought to you by Upside. You're still paying full price at the gas station. You're leaving money behind at the pump. So stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use our limited time promo code as well, Touchdown, to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I was a little skeptical. I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. You pull it up and you can see on the map where the gas stations are that you can get the best deals. And real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes. And you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using our limited time promo code Touchdown for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code Touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for full terms and conditions. We're going to get to some positives here. Let's talk about the weird stuff that happened in this game. And how long are the 49ers going to do this dance with Brock Purdy? Short field goal, doinks it. Not his fault getting a field goal.
Jake Moody.
Jake Moody. What did I say?
You said Brock Purdy.
Okay, Brock Purdy. Yeah, Jake Moody. Thank you. I cannot say Jake Moody's name right. I think there's some sort of we were laughing about the chat even before we started. Some folks talking about how Jake Moody needs to go to prison because of the mental anguish he puts fans through. And maybe there's a mental block there with me for Jake Moody because I feel like I always call him former 49er linebacker Nick Moody. Just called him Brock Purdy for some reason. But yeah, Jake Moody, he's in the forefront of 49ers fans' minds. And I just wonder how long the 49ers are going to go through this dance. The missed field goal, there was the block field goal, special teams, a little weird for the 49ers in this game. And which makes it even more amazing that the 49ers were able to come out on top of a really close, highly contested game when special teams was really funky for them in this game. The fans want to know about Jake Moody in the chat, Croc. What are your thoughts there? And is this just going to be the roller coaster year the 49ers are going to have with Jake Moody?
My thoughts on Jake Moody have not changed. I just don't trust him. And that's tough, right? When the kicker lines up, let's say the Dallas Cowboys kicker. I can't even think of his name right now. But when I watch him line up for a kick, yeah, there we go. Brandon Aubrey?
Brandon Aubrey, yeah.
There you go. When I watch Brandon Aubrey line up for a kick, I assume it's going in. When I watch Jake Moody line up for a kick, I legitimately do not know what to think about what's going to happen when the ball hits the ground. Like, did it go through the uprights? Is it wide left? Is it wide right? And that gives me a very uneasy feeling. And I think it gives the rest of the fan base a very uneasy feeling as well. Not being able to trust your kicker in any scenario, because the one that he missed, it wasn't a very long field goal attempt. And it hit off the upright and it ricocheted and was out. I thought for a second, I thought it might have ricocheted in through the uprights. But I don't even think that Moody trusts himself at the moment. And clearly, Kyle Shanahan had an opportunity to kick a field goal from maybe the 32 or 30-yard line or so. So that would have been about 47-yard field goal. And he opted not to do it. Now, I look at Pittsburgh Steelers, and they kick a 59-yarder to win the game against the New York Jets. And 49ers, I don't think it's just a fan base. I don't think it's just the talking heads. I think it's the organization right now. I don't think they trust Moody. So I'll see how much longer they continue to do this dance with Moody, because right now I think he's skating on thin ice.
Which is so big for the 49ers to be able to go down the field and get that last touchdown. Purdy to Tonges, who had a really nice game, filling in for George Kittle and the heroic final score there. Let's talk about Purdy for a second, because he had the 2 interceptions. The line looks pretty good aside. I talked about how hot he started, and he looked really sharp early in the game. And for the most part, he looked sharp. Just a couple throws, it's like you can't make those throws, Brock, and you can't turn the ball over. And that last touchdown to Tonges, for 97% of that play, I thought he had thrown another interception, Croc. And Reek Woolen didn't make a good play on the ball. Tonges did, and it ended up being a touchdown. Again, sometimes better to be lucky than good.
I don't want to be too hard on Purdy. He did start off sharp. You talked about the first drive. And I think for most of the first half, like, he was very efficient. I thought he was really good with his decision-making. And I'm glad someone tweeted it out to me, because it is something I say all the time on the show, right? As it pertains to quarterbacks, and definitely as it pertains to Brock Purdy as well, since we spend a lot of time talking about him. But there was 2 things that my guy mentioned in the tweet. Said, Croc always says is, 1, you don't need a strong arm until you need one. And we kind of saw that scenario pop up. And the other thing was, when things aren't great, which they were not today for Brock Purdy, he was missing a ton of weapons. That is never an ideal situation, especially when a lot of your game plan is probably schemed up with George Kittle throws and blocks in the run game, and then the passing game, blocking up backside type stuff, and Juwan Jennings, who essentially is a safety blanket. You're without those 2 guys, already without Brandon Ayuk. Like, that is tough. But don't make things worse. And he started to kind of revert to moments from last season where, man, we got this check down open right here, but I'm going to force it into quadruple coverage on Ricky Pearsall. And it's like, you don't have to do that. And it was a clean pocket. So it wasn't even like a split decision. Oh, I'm going to get hit, but I expect him to be there. Let me throw it. You had a clean pocket. You were able to just stand there, and he made the conscious decision to just throw that ball. It scares me because I don't know what made him throw that ball. And the interception, where the pocket, I believe, kind of started to collapse, but initially I thought the pocket was decent, and he forced it into with the linebacker underneath and threw the pick. And then the touchdown to Tonges. I love when you either make mistakes or things happen and then you can correct it, even though there was like a positive result, and that's the more ideal situation. Like you, I thought he threw an interception. There are times with quarterbacks, all right, when a defender has tight coverage on a guy, but their back is to the quarterback. The quarterbacks are taught to throw the ball at the back of the defender, and then the receiver or tight end tries to either reach around the guy, maybe get a penalty. Hopefully, you get the catch. Awesome, because you can't see the ball, so you can throw it in a good spot, all those things. Tariq Woolen was looking right at Brock Purdy. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know how he let Tonges jump in front of him and pick the ball off. But I just question between that and some of the other, just Brock Purdy's decision making. So almost like Jake Moody. I don't think I trust Brock Purdy's decision making in clutch situations. I don't trust it. Now, that's not to say that he can't make plays. That's not to say that he can't make throws. But in those moments, I definitely have this uneasy feeling. Almost like going back to Jimmy Garoppolo, where you throw the ball and you can't see where he's throwing it yet, and the camera pans and it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to catch? Is it not? Like, I have that feeling with Brock Purdy in these tight situations, especially with guys out. But 49ers won. So, I'm pretty sure all is forgiven. But those are things that I feel like at some point this season, maybe a lot of points this season, will kind of bite the 49ers in the rear end, because I don't know exactly why he does it. Actually, he mentioned it, and they mentioned on the broadcast, when the injuries happen and stuff like that, he starts pressing and feeling like he has to make the play. But that throw to Tonges, touchdown, love it, let's go. We were in field goal range. 49ers in field goal range. So I don't think you had to throw it with the DB looking right at you. Like, that was scary. That was scary. And
Croc, I wonder if
he's not lucky, but that was scary. And I don't know what he was thinking.
I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if the 49ers like, we need to get 6. We're not here to kick a field goal right now. I wonder if whether it was just like they feel it, they don't trust Moody, so they don't want to settle for a field goal, so they're forcing it, or Kyle's like, hey, we're not kicking a field goal there. We need a touchdown. Go score. I wonder, like, I think that probably plays into it, but also that's just Brock Purdy's mentality. It's part of what makes him good too. And I talk about the 49ers stealing this win, and Brock does have the guts of a burglar, which is part of why he's so good, and he's able to make some of the tight window throws that he makes. So if you took that out of him, he probably wouldn't be as good of a quarterback. So you almost have to take the good with the bad, because he's got the guts to make some throws that you're like, no. Oh, yes, okay.
So almost like, now this might be an extreme version.
Yeah.
Brett Favre. Right? Yeah. Like, Brett Favre was a guy who, you knew he was going to, be a gunslinger, and he's going to throw some wild throws. And I think when he retired, he had like the most interceptions ever. But he also was like a 2-time or 3-time NFL MVP. And would he be MVP without a little bit of that gunslinger in him? So with Brock Purdy, we all do believe that he's a good quarterback. You say, well, if you take the gunslinger, or I'm calling bad decisions, but if you take that away, is he still the same guy? Like, the guts to throw that ball down the left sideline, towards the end of the game to, who got Ricky Pearsall on Tariq Woolen. And that was another one. I think Tariq Woolen, it looked like he misjudged the ball because it was initially in good position, and then he like slowed down, and that gave Pearsall the space that he needed. Ball dropped right in there. Terrific job. Hit him in stride. But just the guts to attempt that throw, right? I think it takes a little bit of gunslinger. So maybe that's how we have to view Brock. You live with the good, you live with the bad, and hopefully at the end of the game, the good outweighs the bad, which in more times it has. Somebody said comparing Brock Purdy to Favre is crazy. I'm not trying to compare him to Favre. Just the gunslinger mentality. Like,
the mindset.
Clearly, we don't think that he's as talented or physically gifted as Favre, or even, what did Atlanta think about Favre, right? That was the team that originally traded him away to Green Bay. But just the mindset of, I'm going to make a play. And I think that was Favre's mindset, and maybe that's Purdy's mindset, and that's what we just have to get accustomed to thinking, like, he's Brett Favre light.
Time to give out some game balls, Croc. We already gave one to D. Winters. Who else earned game balls from the 49ers week 1 17-13 win over the Seattle Seahawks? Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Game Time and the Game Time app. NFL season is back. It feels great. Big W on the board for the San Francisco 49ers. And honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans. I'm sure a lot of folks listening to this pod were at the stadium. Maybe they're on their way home from the stadium right now. Maybe they're listening to this in the parking lot, having a little party in Seattle. Cheering your team is where it's at, and let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle sometimes. And between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time. If you're a sports fan, you ever want to go to games, you ever want to go to concerts or comedy shows, you got to have Game Time in your pocket ready to go. Download it right now. The app gives you the advantage. It gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay, and you can get some phenomenal last-minute tickets as well. And sometimes you can still buy seats and find some phenomenal deals when the opening band is just going on stage, or when the right before or right after kickoff. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Tap, swipe, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. How about, to go with D. Winters, you got to go with the closer of the game in Nick Bosa, Croc, able to get home, strip sack, calling game, big players making big plays, the star players coming to finish out a game and close it out. Got to give a game ball to Nick Bosa.
Definitely. I was getting messages on social media asking, where is Nick Bosa? Where's Nick Bosa? And we saw the early hit on a nice stunt comes through, hits Sam Darnold, but a little quiet. And as expected, this is a guy who he's going to get a lot of the attention from opposing offenses, and he's going to get chipped, and he's going to get doubled, and all of those things. So you're hoping that some of the other guys step up, and we haven't quite seen that play out yet. But when you need it most, he said, I'm going to figure out how to make a play, even if it's not me specifically knocking the ball out of the quarterback's hands in the clutch. I'm going to bull rush the right tackle right into the quarterback to where when he pulls the pin and pulls that arm back to throw it, it's going to hit the tackle's butt, fall on the ground, and I'm going to recover it. So that was a terrific job by Nick Bosa to make the play that was needed when it needed to be made.
He had a pretty good stat line in the end. 3 tackles for loss, a QB hit. He had a sack. He had the fumble recovery, obviously. And so good game for Nick Bosa, and huge play to close that out, because, it felt like they had the momentum there to go down and score. The Niners couldn't cover Jackson Smith and Jigba. In fact, looking at the stat line here is kind of crazy. Sam Darnold was 16 of 23 passing for 150 passing yards. 124 of those 150 were to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and 9 of his 16 completions were to Jackson Smith and Jigba. They had nothing else going on offense because they couldn't run the ball all that well either, aside from just targeting JSN over and over again. And I'll be curious to see what the PFF coverage grades look like for some of the 49ers secondary. Particularly, they were picking on the rookie. They were going after Upton Stout on the 49ers defense. And I think probably tomorrow, Croc, one of our main topics should probably be the rookies and talk about Mykel Williams in his debut, Siegel getting the start in his debut, Upton Stout getting the start at nickel in his debut, and then the rotation of the defensive line as well. But the 49ers came out of this thing, and despite not being able to cover one of the guys on that football team, they came out with a W, and I got to credit Robert Saleh, give him a big game ball here, Croc, in his first game back. And again, we'll talk more about the defensive line rotation and what we thought of it. But based on how it looked early, and they were able to run the ball, it was the Seahawks' second drive of the game where they just went down the field and scored, and it's like, oh no, is this what it's going to be? And the defense really tightened up. And I feel a lot more comfortable right now going into week 2 of 2025 about the 49ers defense than I probably felt in the first quarter of this game or all of last year.
No, definitely. You talked about the Seahawks being able to kind of march down the field. Even on the first drive, they didn't go and score, but they had a nice chunk play, and you see, like, damn, they're going to get in field goal range. Ultimately, the 49ers got to stop. And then from there, it was 49ers defense really strapping up and doing a terrific job of not giving up the explosive plays, doing a really good job of not giving up all the chunk plays for Seattle to get in any type of rhythm. I thought for most of the game, Seattle's offense was out of rhythm for sure. And late in the game, got a little worried. You see Sam Darnold throw that ball down the left sideline to Jackson Smith and Jigba, a guy who I was excited to see him and just what the matchup looked like with him and Deommodore Lenoir. They didn't face each other, all of the game, but that was a big time kind of matchup throughout social media. And I saw Lenoir challenging Smith and Jigba. So I wanted to see what that looked like. Smith and Jigba, with whoever was on him, he kind of answered the call, but not enough. And I think that does start with kind of Robert Saleh. He dialed up some nice stunts, some timely blitzes, and they did a good job of, I feel like, making Sam Darnold a little uncomfortable throughout this game, having to try to make some plays on the move. Good job by Robert Saleh, and I definitely think that he deserves a game ball.
And again, more on that defensive line rotation on tomorrow's episode. And I want to get into some of the rookies as well, and maybe have a chance to watch a little bit of this game back and see how some of it looked on the all 22 tape, because the 49ers were kind of all over the place with how they were deploying their defensive line, which tells me that they are still not sure themselves. And I think there's some competition for snaps on the defensive line for the 49ers that has gone beyond camp and into the season. Any game balls to give out here, Croc?
Who can we go with Marquise Siegel, man? I mean, watching Siegel and a rookie, and he recovered a fumble. He's out there, running around, and this is a guy first action in the NFL like regular season. Wasn't sure what it was going to look like exactly, but didn't give up any explosive plays. Didn't have any blown coverages to the naked eye. Maybe we watch it through again and we see something different. But overall, I think what you're looking for from a lot of these young guys is for them to not be a liability, or just don't be a liability. And I didn't think Siegel was. So see him in there starting on the defense from the first snap, something I wasn't quite expecting to see. It was cool to see him moving around, running around, and being able to make a play.
My last game ball here is Ricky Pearsall, 108 yards receiving. He had the 45-yarder, the little out and up, hit him with it. Clearly there's a rapport there. Brock Purdy's looking for him. 7 targets. It feels like he had more than only 4 catches, but 108 yards was big on his 4 catches, was the leading receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, averaging 27 yards per catch, by the way, on those 4 catches. And I thought it was pretty important for him to have a big game and be a big part of the passing game for the 49ers early on in the season, and he was that today.
I think a lot of the passing concepts that when the 49ers were targeting Ricky Pearsall were, that kind of sweet spot for the 49ers, right? Like kind of like that 15 to 20 yards down the field. I would like to see him get a little bit more involved in the quick game. And hey, let's get him some stuff now. Just get the ball in his hands and see if he could get a little bit run after catch, but just continue to kind of get him more involved. Do some things where you kind of scheme him open, some clear outs, things like that, to continue to get him involved. Because I do think, especially if you're without Juwan Jennings, you're without George Kittle, you're going to need to find more ways to get the ball into the hands of Ricky Pearsall.
No doubt. Much more to get into with this game, a little rewatch. We'll talk 49ers, Seahawks, and then we'll start looking towards week 2 as well, as we do here every day on Locked On 49ers. A reminder, we've got a brand new show, the 49ers Squad Show, featuring Eric Engel and 4-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board, 3 as a player for the 49ers, 1 as a coach for the San Francisco 49ers. The dude's forgotten more ball than I will ever know. And Croc and I making appearances as well on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. We've got one coming up post-game here right after our Rapid React, and we'll be doing that every single week, and a second squad show as well during the week, usually going live on Wednesday or Thursdays in the afternoon as well. So make sure you're all subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And Croc and I will be back tomorrow breaking down this game even further, especially taking a look at some of those rookies making their NFL debuts and how Robert Saleh was working that defensive line rotation. I think we learned a lot about how this defense might start to take shape in 2025. So stay tuned and subbed up here at Locked On 49ers.